Yeah. Well, I don't know if I want feedback, but why don't you respond live instead of texting? Oh, okay. I got you. Right. Yeah. 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 Okay, well, I'm jumping on YouTube Live now, and I'm actually on YouTube Live while I'm talking to you on the phone. So, yeah, so yeah, you're a Paul Heyman guy. So I'm gonna go on YouTube Live, and I'm gonna call you back sometime tomorrow, um, to get more feedback on the iPad issue and the other issues we have with Patreon. Somebody just commented this is the first time they've ever seen someone talk on a phone live, and this is great. He's probably being nice. This is not great, but I jumped on live after Todd Place. If you're listening, I jumped on live with a Patreon site that my buddy in Michigan is a subscriber of, and I'm trying to figure out what happened with the Patreon site. That's why I'm on the phone, but I'm getting off now. So Nelly, I'll see you, and I'm on YouTube Live. Jump on. Yeah, sorry, Todd. But that's the great thing about YouTube Live and Playfest Football. I can do shit that nobody's done before, and it wasn't planned that way. But yeah, I just hopped off on my Patreon site. I have a live Q&A that I try and do once or twice a month, and I kind of have to use YouTube Live and then click a link and paste a link, and so I was trying to figure out how to do all that. And my buddy in Michigan, my buddy Nelly, who's a member of the Patreon site, I was kind of using him as a guinea pig to see if he could see the stuff that I was doing because there was only one other guy responding in the comments. Um, so yeah, Paul. Yeah, you're a Paul Heyman guy too. Great. No, but I was trying to see if what we were doing that we could do better since the Patreon site is a subscription site, and those people pay $5 a month to subscribe. I wanted to see how we could do it better. So I just happened to jump on live, which I didn't tell anybody I was jumping on live. I just wanted to jump on and see what would happen. And Nelly called me, so I got on the phone while I was on. So sorry I was on the phone. This may also be the first time you've ever seen somebody go live um, and put a Redman Golden Blend pinch with gum in, but I'm me. This is who I am. It's what I do. So it is what it is. But yeah, this is post Rumble, pre Super Bowl, Friday night. I'm home. Didn't have anything else going on. So figured I'd jump on live and see who's out there, see what's going on, um, see what anybody wants to talk about. If you're a wrestling guy, post or a wrestling girl, post Royal Rumble, or if you're a football guy, football girl, pre Super Bowl. Figured we'd get on and spend some time while I had some downtime on a Friday night. Uh, spend some time seeing what people wanted to talk about, what people were doing out there. I told you last time I did this that I think YouTube Live is fascinating. Um, it's a great, for me personally, it's a great it's a great tool because everything I do is kind of off the cuff and unscripted, and so the ability to talk about different things unscripted and free flow, freestyle is kind of how I'm wired. Um, so I like the format. I found out how to do it. The lighting is halfway decent. I figured out to wear a hat while I'm doing it so I don't look totally ridiculous. But yeah, I figured after the Patreon one, I'd jump on live and see what was going on, see who was out there, see who wanted to talk about anything wrestling or pre Super Bowl or football or golf or music or whatever you guys wanted to talk about. So we're a week removed from the clinic that we did, decompressing, but also planning for next year. Yeah, I mean, that's what I love about them too, Todd. They can end up anywhere talking about whatever you want to talk about. And I know that a lot of people do them and say, hey, we're going to live clinic and we're going to talk to this person or this person. And I'll probably do that in the future. I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, but for anybody that happens to be a Play Fast fan or somebody that follows what I do, this is me. This is what I do best. So just finished the clinic last week. Huge success, 150 coaches, great venue right on the ocean in St. Augustine. And now we're already planning the next one. And it's kind of interesting when you get the first one off the ground and you have no idea where it's going to go. And then it goes to a place that is actually really good. Now that we're thinking about the next one, here's a couple thoughts we have. If the next one is what everybody is saying it could be, can the venue we have hold it? Is the venue we have big enough for what it could be? If it gets bigger than what it was, can we hold it at that venue with the 2 rooms that we had? If it gets bigger, do we have to switch venues? Can we do it with 2 speakers at a time, one on offense, one on defense? Do we need more rooms and more speakers? Do we need more vendors? Do we need more sponsors? So the scary thing about doing something like that for the first time is originally I was scared that nobody would come. I was scared that we would be, or I would be stuck a lot of money based on laying out things for rooms and speakers. And then you do it and you have success and you have 150 coaches and they love the venue and they love the intimacy of the event. Now the scary part for me is people want this thing to get bigger based on what we do on YouTube and live and other things now. People are asking me if we can do it in other places. Can we do it in the Midwest and in Ohio? Can we do it in California? Can we do it in New York, where I'm from? So now it's got to a point where it's it's kind of one of those deals where you want to see if you can do it bigger and better and different than you've done it before. But at the same time, you don't want to get too big because you don't want to lose the intimacy of what you've already built. So that's a neat part. That's the interesting part. Now that we got it off the ground and we did it. The great thing about YouTube Live is you can constantly see how many people check in and check out. So like the number fluctuates from 5 to 6 to 7 back down to 4 to 3. So some people don't want to talk about what we're talking about, obviously, and some people click on live and think that you're doing something maybe with maybe you're interviewing somebody or you're doing something that they wanted to see and then they back out. So it's just the YouTube live setting is just, it's kind of fascinating to me because it's improv. It's it is live, so it is what it is. I'm not editing anything, and you see these on my screen. I see the number of users that jump on and off, and you watch it go from 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 3 to 4 to people log on, they see what they see, and they're like, screw that. And then other people log on and they like what you're doing. So anybody that's still on, if you have any questions, anything you want to talk about, shoot. I'll answer anything that any questions that you might have or anything that you want to talk about. I think the Super Bowl is going to be pretty neat from an offensive standpoint. If you're a football coach, watching what the 49ers are going to do on offense as a pro-style offense, I think is pretty neat. With their wide zone schemes and how they're going to approach those wide zone schemes, I think that's always really interesting. Watching how they're going to boot, play action pass over their wide zone schemes is really interesting. And then what the Chiefs are going to do with their college-based approach and their spread and what they're going to do and what they're going to let Mahomes do and what they're going to let Tyreek Hill do is going to be interesting. So I think the Super Bowl, for me, going to be one of the first Super Bowls in a long time that I've been interested in watching. And offensively, if you're an offensive football coach, I think it's going to be one of the better Super Bowls to be around. Defensively, the NFL is what it is on defense. It's usually man-orientated, man-free orientated. So I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl. educationally for me on offense. I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl. I will watch it like I have the last 20 years, not as a fan, but as a coach. And I will try and learn everything I can from the game itself and how it's coached and schematics. And Steelers fan is most excited I've been for Super Bowl since the last time they played because the offense is in what they bring to the table. Yeah, I think if you're a fan of any football or any team, I think it's one of the most exciting Super Bowls I've seen in a long time because the dynamic as a high school football coach is so different because I think the Chiefs bring a different dynamic to the table. And I think what Kyle Shanahan is doing and the 49ers are doing, I don't know how conducive it is to us in high school if we can run a lot of 21 personnel wide zone, but the movement passes and the fact that they uh, got to the Super Bowl with throwing the ball 8 times and Kittle wasn't even really a big factor. And Sanders and Samuel weren't big factors. That's exciting for me as a high school coach because when you turn on an NFL game and they throw the ball 45 times and they drop back pass, 30 of the 45 times, it's exciting football, but it's not exciting as a football coach in high school because I can't do that. So this year's Super Bowl to me is extremely intriguing and exciting because I think the offenses are things that I can take a little bit from and learn. And I've said this before on different on different platforms that I don't watch the Super Bowl as a fan anymore. I watch football as a coach, and I've lost my ability to watch it as a fan, and it kind of sucks. But it's the nature of the beast when you've been a head coach for 20 years and you've been coaching football for 22 years and you run websites. You kind of lose your ability to watch it as a fan. You start watching it as a professional, so to speak. Not that I consider myself a professional by any means, but you start watching it from a different perspective than you do as just a general fan. So this Super Bowl to me is probably the most interesting. Obviously, commercials are going to be great. Halftime is what it is. If you're into that thing, then they're always going to go uh, status quo half times that people may want to watch. I'm not into that, but if you're into that, then good. Halftime will be good. The Super Bowl as a spectacle itself is always great. It's almost an American pastime, maybe even becoming an international pastime. But that whole spectacle of it, the whole deal of what it is and what the Super Bowl is great. And it's the last time we're going to see live football for months at a time. So that makes it interesting and awesome as well. But everybody's got a different take on a Super Bowl. I have a different take on it, and I'm going to watch it for what I'm going to watch it for, and I'm going to get out of it what I want to get out of it, and going to try and see if it benefits me in any way. Um, what are you guys interested in the Super Bowl? Is there anything you're interested in? Is there anything that you want to see? Are you just watching it as a fan? Are you just watching it to party? Are you just watching it to get together with friends? I mean, what's your take on a Super Bowl, or um, what do you try and get out of Super Bowls? I know for some people it's a big day to party. For some people it's a get together. For some people it might be a business venture. Um, I don't know what it is to everybody. I only know what it is to me. But I'm interested to see what everybody else thinks about the Super Bowl. What do they think about what the Super Bowl is? What they do for the Super Bowl. Obviously, if you're into anything else other than football, huge week in wrestling. Just got past the Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble was a great card, in my opinion. Great build, booked great. Um, Getting Drew McIntyre over by eliminating Lesnar and then winning the whole thing, not pushing Roman Reigns down your throat any further, but Roman Reigns probably will be in um, one of the championship matches. But the Royal Rumble was great. Golf is an exciting time. Tiger Woods came back last week. Waste Management in Phoenix, which is the raucous, craziest crowd on the PGA Tour, is always interesting. So, in my life, in my world, uh, this is a pretty good week as far as I'm concerned with the Super Bowl, the Waste Management, and then coming off the Royal Rumble, and then some of the things that AEW is doing. Chiefs offense can be exciting to watch, hard to watch with family as a coach. Yeah, Coach Cole, I agree with you 110%. When you have visitors or family or other people over that are watching the game, um, I miss no hat Mac. I like to see the defensive adjustments late in the lane and give the team 2 weeks to prepare. Yeah, anytime a team um, anytime a team has 2 weeks to prepare, obviously the game plans become different, and it makes it a little bit more interesting as far as the adjustments to what people are going to do. Uh, I put the hat on, Combs, because the last time we did this live with the lighting and no hat on, I felt like it wasn't a very good look for me. So I put the Play Fast hat on, not only to market the brand, but at the same time to kind of, with the lighting in the venue that I'm in right now, kind of cover up some of the inadequacies that I have as a human being. Um, yeah, but that's defensive adjustments will always be interesting. I've never really watched the NFL from a defensive perspective because I think it's so far removed, excuse me, from what we do in high school. But now that the offenses are becoming more spread based and more um, shotgun based in nature, quarterback run. Um, uh, Thanks, Todd. I love the hat too. I wish we could mass produce more of them and ship them to people, but it costs me a hell of a lot of money to ship them individually to people. So I wish we had a site. Um, I wish we had a site that we could produce these hats and have people just click on a link to get a hat. But for me to ship them individually to people is it's not a great business venture on my end, and it's not great on your end to ask you to pay more for the hat than the hat is really worth because I need shipping costs. So, but the logo is great. The hat itself is great. Dome Hats. If you follow anything I do, Dome Hats is an amazing hat company that does a lot of custom work, and they did all my hats and all my logos. So, yeah. But getting back to Combs, defense adjustments are great. It's just that the NFL has been so far removed, in my opinion, from what we do in high school that I don't watch the NFL for a lot of defensive stuff, but I will start to watch it a little bit when they're defending Lamar Jackson and now, Mahomes to an extent. And there are certain things that they have to defend now that is a little bit more conducive to what we do. So I will have a vested interest in some of the things they're doing on defense now, but I've never, to be honest with you, I've never gone to NFL for defensive adjustments or defensive gameplay. I've always gone to college. So it'll be interesting from that standpoint. But for those of you that are coaching now, where are you guys now in your seasons? Are you fully in your off season? Are you fully in strength and conditioning? What is your role in strength and conditioning? How often are you around? I know, Combs, you had told me at one point that you work off campus, I believe. So maybe in the off season you're not as involved. I have a lot of off campus guys that coach with me, and they're not as involved with our off-season stuff because they have jobs and families and things that they're doing. So I kind of run our off-season program myself with two other guys that kind of help me, but they're adjunct guys. So, this time of year, it's interesting. What are you guys doing? What are you doing to get better? Are you going to clinics? What clinics are you going to? What are you studying, offense and defense? Who are you looking at? Are there individual schemes or schools that you're looking at? What do you do in January, February as a football coach? Especially this week after the Super Bowl is over, there's no football on. What do you do as a football coach? What do you do to get better? What do you do to learn? Those are always the things that I'm interested in because I got started in this business and in this YouTube business and in this video business as a guy who went and watched YouTube videos and things in the off season to get better. And I tried to study things and tried to find things that were good for me. And so the off season for me, I've said this several times before, but I love January to August actually more than I love August to November. That's just me. Growing in the off season, learning in the off season, connecting with other coaches in the off season, trying to make your off season program better, trying to make our weight room better, talking about culture. The season gets kind of mundane with games are great. Obviously, competing is great. Schemes, winning games is great, but there's the same. We all go through the same problems and the same things during the season, and you get so you're so involved with the practices and film and scout cards and breakdowns and scouting plans and game plans. Your week after week gets kind of mundane. Monday through Saturday, you do the same damn things over and over again. And I mean, obviously the season is what we live for and it's what we coach for. I get that, but the way I'm wired and the way I do things, I get more adrenaline. I get jacked more in the off season because I get a chance to talk to you guys and interact with people about what they're doing and what they're doing different and, what works and what hasn't worked and what they're learning and what they're studying. It's just a lot of theories, a lot of drawings, a lot of napkins per se in the off season. And it's a great time to, it's a great time to exchange knowledge with people and interact with people. And Glazier Clinic Time as an online coach, starting to see 425 a ton, watching lots of YouTube and drawing up what ifs to try and answer questions. But yeah, to be honest with you, Coach Cole, I think 425 in essence is a personnel structure. I get it that a 6-man box as opposed to maybe a 4-3 box is different, but to me, as an offensive coach, attacking a 4-2-5, you're seeing over fronts, you're seeing even fronts, so you're really basing your game plan off of attacking and blocking even fronts. So that's the way I look at it a little bit more. If you want to get more in depth into 4-2-5, 3 safety stuff, game planning where the free safety goes and where the down safety is going to be, and if that down safety is a Sam linebacker or a nickel, is he a guy that can cover? Those are the things in the game plan in a 4-2-5 that I think you need to really study and look at, because to me the 4-2-5 is an even front defense that just plays with different personnel. So I look at things. I look at things from fronts and coverages and stunts and blitzes more so than I do personnel based. So um, 4-2-5 to me is just a different personnel group of an even front defense. Middle Tennessee State Coach Martin, Miami of Ohio, and Coach Kaczynski and University of St. Thomas. Those are guys I developed relations with. Great film advice and just talk ball. Yeah, those are all good guys, all guys I've listened to or studied before. So I think Coach Combs has got a great point there. Those are great sources of information. Anytime you can listen to small school coaches, I highly recommend it to people, because small school coaches are a little bit more open to give out information, and they're a little bit more ball orientated, where large school coaches are a little bit more recruiting and player orientated. So they want to thank you for everything that you do for the recruiting process. Small school coaches are more ball orientated. And getting back to what we did last week with the clinic that we did, it was all football, it was all ball, it was all guys that wanted to know only about ball, and it was all high school speakers. So I think we got to a point where we created something that was really ball heavy, football junkie orientated, and we tried to stay away from cookie cutter clinic type stuff that everybody goes through. Listen, I've attended Glazers for 20 years. I've spoke at Glazers the last 8 years. I have nothing wrong with Glazier clinics, and I am not with PlayFast Football. I'm not trying to compete with Glazier clinics. I'm just trying to give people another alternative in the clinic world. So by no means do I have an issue with Glazier clinics, or do I think Glazier clinics are bad. But in 20 years of doing it now, with all the vault stuff that they've created, which is absolutely phenomenal. If you're a football whore like I am, and you sell your soul to get information in every feasible way possible, the Glazier vaults are awesome. But I will tell you this: when you put on a clinic, and then people start asking you about are the speakers, are the sessions going to be published? Are you going to put them out there? I can tell you this: I think putting clinic speakers out there for the internet to see cheapens the experience of the live clinic attendee. So I am very cautious on what we are going to put out from our clinic and where we're going to put it out, because I had 150 coaches come live in person, and the experience that they had live in person is something that you can't replicate. So as thankful as I am for the Glazier Vault, as a business owner now doing clinics, it's a slippery slope to go down, because I don't want to cheapen the experience of the guys that were there live. Because eventually what it'll come down to in the clinic world is, why even host clinics live? Why ask guys to come to a clinic and sit through speakers and get a hotel and pay money to travel and eat, when I can give you all those speakers on your laptop? So I think we have to be careful what we're doing with clinics, and not putting too much information out there that kind of lessens the live experience. Is that the New York State football coaches clinic next week? I don't know what NYS is for me. I'm a New York guy, so right away I think New York State. But Trying to get out to North Carolina in May for 92 Mesh Clinic with Coach Mummy. I coach wrestling, so it's tough to get clinics with tournaments on the weekends. Yeah, wrestling is ridiculous. Wrestling is wrestling's an all day deal with what they do. So um, I'm in a touchdown club with Coach McKee, which has been very helpful with all the Zoom calls and the info. What I don't even know what is a touchdown club something you pay for. Um, Obviously, I know who Coach McKee is. Coach McKee was supposed to speak. Um, Coach McKee was supposed to speak at my clinic this year, and his kids got sick and he couldn't make it. So I obviously know who Coach McKee is, and um, I know the stuff that he does on YouTube Live and some of the stuff that he does with the Mesh Group. Um, but is the Todd uh, is the Touchdown Club like a group that you pay to join and then they do conference calls, or how do they work that? Okay, so you pay to get into a group and then they do like Zoom conferences that only members of the Touchdown Club can see, I'm assuming. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I get it. I understand why they're doing it and how they do it that way. And the way YouTube Live works is when you go on YouTube Live, you can choose to make it public or unlisted. And if you do it public, like I'm doing this one here, then anybody that follows you or anybody that gets your notification that knows you're on YouTube Live can jump on. Um, if you do it in like a setting where people join, you can do it unlisted, and then when they go to whatever site, or if they do it on Zoom, you can then get all your members in there. So that seems to be the way that everybody's going now. It seems to be the way that the world is kind of working towards these settings to where you get in these smaller group settings and you do things on live and you do things on Zoom. And, obviously we can connect from anywhere in the world on the internet. So it is, it is an interesting and kind of amazing deal that we can do all that. I kind of, I think the, I think those kind of settings are perfect for uh, air raid guys, wing T guys, single wing guys, because I think they're a type of group that's pushing a philosophy and a style of play on you. That if you're interested in that style of play and that philosophy, then obviously that setting is good for you. But I kind of go down an avenue that I don't push a philosophy on anybody. I talk offense, I talk defense, I talk special teams, I talk practice plans, I talk weight training, whatever it is that people want to talk about. So um, I think those settings are really good for those that demographic of learners because obviously if you're an air raid guy, then being in an air raid group is something that you want to do. Um, I try to stay away from that simply because I want to be an offense guy. I want to be a defense guy. I want to talk to more people. I want to talk about more things. So, um, those individual settings to me kind of end up in, I don't want to say a cult type following, but they end up kind of going towards a path where you're only going to draw X amount of people um, into the group because it's got to be air raid people. But we're going to do it in the future. I'm going to interview other people on live. I'm going to do some Zoom interviews with people on live because it's an easy way to generate more followers. But when you throw up there that you're doing a video and interview with Hal Mummy, you're going to get more followers. So I know why they do it. I get why they do it. And Coach McKee does a great job. I've watched his stuff before, so I think it's pretty cool. I think it's interesting that those guys have that much passion in one scheme, uh, and they want to share it and develop it with other people and make it grow. I think that's fascinating. I just steer away from that because I watch all the arguments that occur with um, philosophically with guys that get on and they're not air raid, and the air raid guys argue with the wing T guys, and the wing T guys argue with the air raid guys, and um, besides just looking at the numbers defensively, have you done much else self scout or self evaluate from this past year? Yeah, I try and look at how often I played, what fronts and coverages, how often I played my man free stuff, how often I sent four, how often I sent five, how often I sent six. I try to look at how often I brought pressure from the field and from the boundary. If you follow what we do, we are a left and right defense to where my guys don't switch sides. So our pressures are built based on left side pressures, right side pressures, and middle pressures. Um, so I try to go back and break it down based on field and boundary. And um, we're not a blitz to formation team. We're not a blitz to back team. So um, what happens? Hey, sweetie. What are you doing? Huh? Now you let all the cats in, and I'm on YouTube Live. So come on. Yeah, come on in. Yeah, there's Mia. There's my youngest daughter, Mia. So, um, so what happens with that, Combs, is because I don't blitz the formation and because I don't blitz the back, I try to then figure out what pressures I was calling from the field and from the boundary, and obviously it's easy for us. If I have a left side pressure and I call it from the hash mark, the right defensive hash mark, I know I'm bringing that pressure from the field, so that makes it a little bit easier to look at in terms of the pressure. So I can't really I can't really per se go back and say left side pressures, right side pressures. When I go back and self scout, I have to go back and look at when I call that left side pressure, was it from the field or was it from the boundary, and how effective was it from the field? Um, when I call field side pressures, were people running the ball into the boundary? Were my four under two deep pressures better than my three under three deep, or my man free, or my two under three deep hot pressures? Get the cat on. Who is that?
Pooh Bear.
Pooh Bear, get Pooh Bear on live. People need to see Pooh Bear.
He's my favorite.
He's your favorite. Good. So yeah, so I do other self scout stuff based on pressures, based on field pressures, based on boundary pressures, based on middle pressures, based on 6-man pressures, 5-man pressures, 4-man pressures. Big 3x1 self scout to try and see when we play our 3x1 checks to try and see where we're getting hurt, what hurt us, why it hurt us. When I what made me decide to check certain 3x1 checks and to see if it actually worked to what we were trying to get it to work to. So yeah, big self scout guy, big. But I'm not a big. I don't have a million things charted into YouTube, broken down a million ways. I'm kind of an old school guy. I wouldn't say I'm like the Bill Belichick padding type of guy. I don't get that extensive with it, but I'm an old school guy that likes to watch things and you can't sit down in it. Fine, get a seat, man. Well, now nobody can see it.
I'm too short.
You're too short, so you're gonna have to stand. But I'm an old school guy. I like to chart things based on handwriting, notepads, stuff like that. So I guess maybe because I'm a little bit older and not as good at some of that stuff, I don't use Huddle as much as I probably should. And I would say that that's a negative or a downfall for me, a downside for what I do. But I have some younger guys on my staff that I think are really good at that, so I'm probably going to use them more next year. But yeah, big self scout. If that helps you in any way, Combs, I don't know if it does or not, but that's how I self scout and the things we do self scouting because we're a little bit different on defense. So try and look at if we change fronts at all, if we played any tight front or any bear or any fronts, or when we move. For us, when we move and send a fourth, we're really moving to an over or under front. So I try to base our movements to over under our bear front stuff or our different fronts. I try to see if what was good against the run and what worked and what didn't work. So yeah, self scout that way. Mia is now pulling a chair in so that she can sit on the YouTube live. So you'll now have Coach Mac +1.
I can't see the chair, but I can see me.
That's all you need to see. You're on YouTube live.
Yay!
Yay.
Yay!
Okay, maybe some of these people will ask you a question.
Okay.
I don't know if they will or they won't. But, so yeah, that's self scout. What we do offensively, I'm looking at what I called, how I called it, how often I called certain things, formations, 2-back sets with the fullback set. if I set the fullback strong and the tailback weak, or if I set the fullback away from the two receivers, how often did I call RPOs? What RPOs did I call? What runs are best for us? What runs, what runs should I have called more? What runs didn't I call enough? What runs did I call too much? How was our read game? Passing game wise, protection wise, did I have answers to pressures that we were getting? So, you're always going to self scout. I'm always going to self scout. And I don't want to say that self scout is different for anybody, but it's kind of big for me because I don't bring a call sheet onto the field. I kind of coach. I coach gut feeling and kind of by the flow of the game. So I think I might maybe get more predictable than some other people because I coach from a gut feeling and not from a call sheet. So I try to go back and self scout. Mia, do you want to answer Combs's last question? How many cats?
19 and 3 hamsters.
That is a true fact. People on YouTube, we have 19 cats and we have 3 hamsters. So please don't judge us. Hopefully you don't think any worse of us.
We rescue the pets.
Maybe we could, Mia, we might be able to make this a football version of that YouTube family. Since they have like 90 million viewers and they make $90 million a year, maybe we can make Play Fast Football and Coach Mac Live. We can make this that live football family. Yes, Thomas, 19 cats. Yeah, exclamation point. That's crazy. I got 3 rescues. Well,
are they all cats?
To be honest, Todd, that's how we ended up getting some more. We rescued some, and then people found out we were cat people, and
we rescued a pregnant cat. Then she had 6 kittens within 24 hours. So.
Yes, we rescued a pregnant cat that had 6 kittens within 24 hours. So we ended up with 7 more cats after we took the rescue and the 6 kittens. So I am a glutton for punishment. I am a animal advocate. So I will sacrifice everything that we do within our house for our cats. And it is who it is, or it is what it is. I am who I am, and we are who we are. So we don't hide behind it. We don't try and make it any different. This is who we are. This is how we live, and we love it. So, yeah, God bless us is right, Todd. God bless us for having all those cats. So,
it stinks in our house.
Yeah, sometimes it does stink in our house, but I will tell you the great thing about having 19 cats as a football coach. Never one time on a Friday night do I come home and those cats give a damn about what we did. They don't care if we won. They don't care if we lost. They never judge me.
They just get right on top of them.
Yeah, they just get to go to bed and sleep with us. So cats are pretty cool in that aspect because they don't judge you like human beings do, and I don't have to answer to why'd you run this, why'd you run that, why'd you play man, why'd you play zone, why didn't you run the ball more, why didn't you throw the ball more. So it's nice to know as a football coach you can come home to 19 cats that won't care what the result was. So that makes it kind of interesting in a way and kind of neat in a way. But hey, that's who I am. That's who we are. That's how we live. So, and it makes the girls happy. So if Mia's happy and Macy's happy and Mom's happy, then I'll deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So
you actually brought some cats home.
Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
I rescued some of them and brought them home, and it is what it is. So.
What? I'm in Dad's room. He's fine with it. Yeah. What? Okay. I just closed the door on Pooh Bear. On accident.
Oh, you may want to go out because if Mom's not cool with you being on YouTube Live, then you probably don't want to be on YouTube. So go. First thing about coming home after a loss was my pets had no idea if I won or got crushed. Yeah, we all think the same way, Todd. It's nice to know that you can come home to something that's not judgmental, or we know what we're going to deal with as coaches in the public realm and on social media. So you get a chance to come home to non-judgmental pets that love you for who you are. It's pretty cool. Yep, unconditional love is a good thing, and pets give you that. And I don't want to say that it started as that because I was a football coach, but you kind of after a while you kind of learn to enjoy it when you deal with all the crap we deal with, and especially with for me having a YouTube channel and doing things on YouTube when you don't win, you're always going to deal with people that kind of say, well, maybe you should do different things, or maybe you should do more of the things you do on YouTube, and maybe you should use your own advice, or maybe you should do whatever. So that the YouTube platform is kind of a double edged sword. Sometimes people enjoy it, and people then kind of use it. Yeah, and to me, Coach Cole, I always never value the opinion of someone you wouldn't ask their opinion of in the first place. So um, I don't I don't ever reach out for someone's opinion if it's an opinion that I don't really value. So, but you just live and you learn in this business. I've been doing YouTube stuff for 7 years, and um, I've mentioned it before several times. I'm slightly over 500 as a head football coach. I've been 9-1. I've been 1-9. There's Mia with a Gator helmet on. So I've been 9-1. I've been 1-9. I've not made the playoffs the last 5 years. I've been 3 rounds deep in the playoffs. So it's public high school football. I coach the kids that show up at my school, and it is what it is. When I have good players, we win. When I don't have good players, we struggle. X's and O's are great. Doing these videos and YouTube stuff is great, but at the end of the day, it doesn't come down to that. So, um, you know, it just it is what it is, and you deal with it. So, any you guys got any scheme questions? Anything you want to talk about, offense or defense, or anything schematically you want to get into, or anything you want to talk about what we might be looking at, or what I might be looking at, or since it is a football channel and you guys are probably football coaches and Mia.
I could be a football coach.
You could be.
No, I couldn't. I mean, I can yell at people.
Yeah. There's some people that make a living that way, yelling at people. That's what they do, but
I could do that.
it's a little bit more to it than that, buddy.
That's the only part I know. Ooh, 199.
Todd placed the second super chat after the Coach Combs. I appreciate you so much. And everything you guys do for the channel. And now that the super chats are there, and supporting the channel and getting us to where we can get better computers and better video and better audio, and all the things that we want to do with the channel moving forward. I've never hesitated on the fact to say that I do the channel for the audience out there, and um, always want to do things that the audience wants, and always want to do things that the audience is interested in. The Niners have a female coach, so obviously the Browns hiring a female coach is no surprise to me. And either way, Todd, I don't look at the amount. I could care
On
less.
the bottom, it said 10.
It's Mia looks at there's the difference in the YouTube world, guys. Mia,
Did he share the Google Drive with you?
which Google Drive, Combs? I got your Google Drive that you shared. I got your 303 deep stuff, but I don't know. I don't know what other Google Drive you are referring to.
Very good.
There, Todd. That's if that's better for you, then that's fine. But I don't even. Now we have one of our other cats with their paws under the door trying to get in. I don't. I don't really look at the monetary value. I said last week when Combs was the first one. Combs was the first one to do the super chats, and I told these guys on YouTube, it's probably not smart of me to say this, but I didn't even know what super chats were. I just knew that YouTube enabled super chats, and I clicked on enable super chats and had to watch videos on what they really were. But sprint out passing schemes from the pistol. Have you ever play action the running back who is protecting the edge on sprint out? Yeah, I could see why you would do that. I would imagine wide zone. If the back is going to be on the edge in protection, I imagine wide zone sprint draw or some type of action that brings the back to the edge would be the most conducive to the play action. My question would be more or less why you were using the action with the sprint out pass, who you're trying to hold, uh, what routes you're running, what you're trying to achieve from the play action portion of uh, the pass. But I could certainly see how, off of a wide zone or a sprint draw deal, how you could use action to the running back to hold linebackers longer or to maybe get depending on how you're blocking it, maybe get the D lineman to react to a run block scenario and not pass rush. I certainly could see that. I certainly could see you doing that. Um, I'd be interested, Brad. I'd be interested to know when you sprint out, do you reach, hinge the backside, or do you turn the whole thing back and put the running back on the edge by himself? Is something that I'd be interested in asking you how you protect sprint out to kind of figure out how the play action or where you're putting the back uh, fits into that equation. But as far as the question is concerned, yes, I could totally see it. I could totally see you using the back end protection and office sprint out stuff. It's not. I don't think it's strange. I don't think it's uncommon. Uh, I would just think normally in a sprint out deal, if the back is uh, a secondary contain guy that's picking up a linebacker that's trying to cage the quarterback, or if you fully slide the line and the back is on the edge, uh, to me, I would think the onus would be on getting him into the protection as quick as possible. And if you're in the pistol and you play action, would that slow him down from getting into the protection? Would be probably my major concern. But totally doable. I could see it 100%. If you went back in the 80s or the 90s when quarterbacks were under center and you looked at teams that ran sprint draw and sprint out stuff, I would bet you that there was some play action stuff off of their sprint draw action that you would find in video clips and highlights of what they do. So I think if you went back a ways and studied some sprint out stuff from under center, I think you would definitely see that that people use the back. Tony Bananas, thanks for all the content, Coach. Quick question: I've always wanted to start making videos, but I am always afraid to put too much out there for opponents to see. What's your philosophy on the subject? Nowadays, with Huddle, your opponents are going to have every game you play. They're going to watch every game you play. If you follow the stuff that I do on YouTube, and obviously you do because you're here, I very rarely put my terminology on YouTube. I very rarely tell you what we call our plays or our protections or our pressures. I talk about things in a very generic nature, how we do what we do and why we do what we do, but there's no terminology behind it. So as far as that is concerned, by the world we live in now with digital editing and Huddle and all those things, I think everybody has all your games and they've seen what you do. So uh, I don't really worry about putting out there. Um, I don't really worry about putting out there so much what we do, uh, and worrying about how that affects the game plan, or do people get an added advantage because they see what we do. I think they have every game anyway, so I'm not really worried about that, to be honest. I'd be interested in hearing some details about turn back protection on sprint out. Probably a little bit more conducive in areas where the running back can cut the edge. In Florida, with the rules that we use, we cannot cut the edge from the running back position. So if we fully turn the line back and put the running back on the edge, we would have a harder time doing it that way because we cannot cut the edge, and a running back on a defensive end is not a good matchup. Uh, when you fully turn a protection back and you put the running back on the edge, you lose a guy for secondary contain or linebacker contain stuff. So the quarterback, in my opinion, is a little bit less protected, but you gain the ability to not have as much run through from the inside gaps because you're turning it back, and then you kind of gain the added advantage of making that maybe look more like a run scheme than a half slide turn back protection would be. So just like anything else in football, it's got its pluses and its minuses, and you choose what to do as a coach because you're comfortable with what you do or you're comfortable with what your kids do. But to answer that in a long version, probably full slide or full turn back on the edge is more conducive if the back could cut. Running backs on defensive end and pass protection is not a good matchup. Thanks. I was thinking of reaching front side and play action that running back just to freeze the inside back of the run a jet. Yeah, if play action helps hold that running back to get an over route or a climb route or a drag behind him, then it's definitely worth it. If the running back is responsible for linebackers in the protection, then play action is certainly fine. Not a problem at all. So I think you could do that. I was thinking of it out of two back. Thomas, if you're doing it out of two back and one back has the edge and the other back has a linebacker scrape secondary contain player, and you are 7-man protecting your sprint out and only releasing 3 in the route, then I think you can certainly do it. Absolutely. Full line slides. I put the running back on a DN makes me nervous, even with boot sprint out. Yeah, 100%. It makes everybody nervous. Running backs on DNs and protection. I was told 20 years ago by a guy named Joe Delgaze, who coached me in high school and was one of my mentors in the coaching world. He told me, don't put a guy that works on pass protection 20% of the time against the guy that does pass rush 100% of the time. So a running back that only does pass protection in limited facets of his practice plan versus a kid that pass rushes a lot and works on pass rushing a lot is not a good matchup. So throughout my 20 years, I've tried to avoid as best as I possibly can putting a running back on a defensive end in protection. The only time we do it is in quick game where I feel like the quarterback's going to get rid of the ball and have the ball out of his hand. What have you been doing versus trips, fast 4, and then your run fits versus RPO, your sling fits versus pistol teams, 3 buzz? So for us in our trips checks, we are a mini team, 3 safety team to where we will X out and play man on the number 1 receiver. We'll play palms or 2 read on a 2 and a 3. So if they push a fast 4, our apex linebacker has to push with that, which does eliminate a number from the box. But we have a weak side safety that drops down in support, and we get 2 for 1 on the backside. So I feel like if there's a fast 4 out in our base coverage, even though we push with the fast 4, by pushing that back, they now only have 5 blockers. So by dropping the weak side safety down, I feel like we add a guy to the fit and we still get 6 on 5 in the run game. RPO wise, it's kind of tough when you start slinging the coverage or pushing. What are you doing, man? Don't touch any of that. If you push the coverage or sling the coverage to RPO stuff and backers start flying out of the box and then the quarterback runs, inside runs, obviously that's an issue. More of an issue where your coverages are 6-man boxes, and if you sling the coverage to a fast 4 pushed and a backer leaves the box to leave it 5 in the box and they have 5 on 5, a little bit more of an issue. But our base trips check with the weak safety down gives us an extra body. Now obviously there's some matchups to the trip side that make that coverage a little bit of an issue, but in the RPO quarterback run game, I feel like that's the best answer. 3 buzz is probably a good answer. 3 skate, 3 Mabel, the flooded 3 deep stuff that Saban does, depending on how far they push to match certain routes. I feel like a rotated strong 3 buzz would give you the chance to push a little bit and still have 6 on 5 in the box. Because let's face it, the bottom line is when teams are doing that using quarterback runs and RPOs, bottom line is helmet for helmet, get 1 more than they have the block. So if they push a back out and it leaves you a 5-man box and they can now block 5 on 5, you are leaving yourself a little bit thin. So trying to play coverages that that don't leave you 5-on-5 in a box is the best case scenario that you have. So, and then from a game plan standpoint, when they push 4 fast to the trips, what are they trying to do that to use spacing routes and get 4 strong in passing concepts to put more people in places than you have defenders to cover? Are they pushing 4 strong to get to quarterback runs? I think when you do your scouting and your analysis of what other teams do, I think it's probably pretty simple to break down when teams are 1 backer empty, or if they push a back to get to empty and use quarterback runs. I think it's pretty easy to scout what they really want to do out of those sets, and then you base your coverages that week um, off of what they want to do. And when in doubt, you pressure. If they push the back and they only have 5, you send 6 and you play man, and you make them throw the ball to receivers in coverage, and hopefully you can cover and tackle, and hopefully their quarterback doesn't escape and get away from the 6-man pressure, and you get him on the ground, or you affect his throws, because if you're playing man to man, obviously quarterback scrambling is an issue. But those scenarios, 3-by-1 with a pushback or empty scenarios, become a kill it or cover it type deal, where you can decide to play coverage and cover it, or you can decide to get after them and kill it. And obviously, the best is the best game plan going in is to have both scenarios where you can kill it and cover it. But it's the way football is nowadays with offenses, and that's why we do what we do on offense, and that's why we love what we do on offense, because you're trying to put the defense in a bind. So hopefully, hopefully that helps, Combs. We're not. I know you're a 1-high team, and I know we're not a 1-high team. So I don't know how you handle fast 4 push motion from your 1-high 3 deep structures, but I know how we have to do it. So hopefully that helps. How do you handle 6 showing in single back protection, i.e., double A gap barrel type look? We are only half man, half slide on a 1 technique, thinking 6-man box. Our running back is going to have one of those guys. Obviously, if we're checking down our running back and we have a 6-man protection, he's got to take one of them. So wherever you're creating the zone side, if you're getting double A gap pressure, your center's got to have one of the A gap pressures, and your back has to be able to step up and block one of the A gap pressures. If you're 6-man protection, 10 personnel, there's really no other way to do it. Your back is going to end up on a linebacker either way. So you have to work that into your protection deals, and you have to make sure your running back is okay with picking up a blitzing linebacker. If we free release a back and we only have a 5-man protection, then obviously we have to throw hot off of that blitzer. So our quarterback has to be able to understand 5-man protection or 6-man protection, our hot throws, and how many linebacker blitzes from the play side, not the zone side, it takes to make it hot. So, it's your protection, your route concepts, and what you teach your quarterback is really the things that you're building into it. So that's how we would go about handling that. I know some people in that scenario, they might full slide the line to pick up the blitzers and put the back on an edge so that the back has got the furthest rusher from the quarterback. That's definitely an option. But if we had a back responsible for an inside backer and they come with a double A gap blitz, the center's got to take one of those backers coming, and the back's got to take the other one. Now, if they sent both backers, twin blitzes in the same gap, and the center turns and both backers come in front side gaps, and there's 2 on the back, that becomes a little bit of an issue. But that also becomes an issue for the defense, because if they're doing that, they're leaving themselves a gap short in a run game. So if you have the right run play called to that, or if you can pick up a tendency that teams do that, and you can call runs into those blitzes, they're going to be a gap short if they're sending backers in the same gap. But if they're gapping out their blitzes and sending a backer to one side and a backer to the other side, then you should be fine. Your center on the zone side takes a backer, and your center on your running back on the man side takes a linebacker. So you should be good within your numbers. They send 6, you have 6. It should be good. Flood of the Green Dog is usually our plan. A lot of times we'll game up a weak side stunt against the turnback or Bob to try and get a free runner and wall off the crosser. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're trying to gear up an extra rusher based on a protection away from the center's turn, obviously getting an extra rusher to those deals is a pretty good deal. But I'm not telling you anything you don't know comes. If you gear up an extra rusher, you have one less guy in coverage, so you know the things that you got to deal with. You have a great night as well, Combs. Appreciate what you do for the channel. So enjoy yourself. Have a good weekend. I should use more quick screens if using quick game schemes like stick and scat, right? Excuse me. Yes, if you're going to throw the quick screens off the scat and off the stick. If you're going to do that, it probably becomes a read off the mic or a read off a linebacker push type deal where you have a quick screen away from the stick and you read a backer. And if the backer drops to the stick, you then reset and throw the quick screen away from the backer drop. So it gets a little bit more involved with what you have to teach your quarterbacks. But to say that you have to carry quick screens because you carry quick game, I don't know if I agree with that or not. Obviously, I think screens can help protect some of the things that you're doing. But if you wanted to protect your stick and scat game with screens, I would think that you would throw screens off of linebacker push and having your quarterback read the side a linebacker opens or drops to, and then he throws either a quick game to that side because you have numbers, or they match the numbers and you throw the screen away. So I would think that is why you would want to carry screens with your regular quick game. Now, as far as a drop back team is concerned, normally you carry schemes to slow down a rush. When you're in quick game and quick game protection, you don't really worry about them. Are you bored? You're on camera rolling your eyes.
No, I'm not. I'm making my eyeballs go backwards.
Okay. I don't worry about quick game protection as much because we're throwing the ball so quickly and it's full slide stuff that I feel like we can pick up pressures. When you drop back and you throw the ball from a launch point where the quarterback is going to be in the pocket and you face a lot of pressure, you're throwing screens to slow down the pressure. Now, obviously, those become potential big plays, and you're trying to get the ball to receivers in space. But at the same time, one of the reasons you're throwing screens is to slow down the other team's rush. So I don't think you need to do that as much in quick game. But that's just me, Brad. Don't check the messages.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Hey, appreciate you, Boomer Sooner. Thanks for the super chat, bro. Appreciate you. I think this is the first time I've seen you on here. If it is the first time I've seen you on here, then appreciate you. God bless. Thanks for what you do. And, every time you guys contribute to the super chat, or every day, you guys are contributing to the channel, and it gives us a chance to get, build the channel to better quality, better videos, better audio, better lighting, maybe a play fast backdrop in the background eventually, where we do videos with a play fast backdrop. And so thank you so much for what you guys do. And thank you, Boomer. It means a lot to me. Obviously, I do this channel to try and help people in whatever way I can, and answering questions and trying to talk schematically in X's and O's, or talk about what head coaches go through every day, or practice plans, or helping young coaches out is why I do it. So I appreciate when somebody appreciates what I do. Question on simplicity. What do you feel is the bare minimum amount of concepts to be successful in the spread, i.e. how many run concepts, how many quicks, how many dropbacks? One thing I like is system guys have their core play. Yeah, I don't know, Tony, if I don't know if system guys have their core plays, and I get that. But I think if you talk to any offensive coordinator in any scheme, I think they have their core plays as well, and their base runs that they like, and the base passes that they like. I think the thing that makes systems a little bit different sometimes in a way is they do less, and they focus on getting better at the less that they do, and they use adjustments off the less that they do. But I think most of your great coordinators, like I talked about the Super Bowl earlier, when you watch the 49ers this week, wide zone is going to be a core play, and they're going to run wide zone with different motions and trades and shifts and adjustments, and they're going to run wide zone with a lead back, the fullback. Jursic is going to be a lead back, and then they're going to run wide zone off a split theory where Jursic cuts the backside edge, and they run wide zone with no lead blocker. So, the Niners have a core play, and a lot of their offense is based off of wide zone. So I think all offensive guys have core plays. I think the difference. Sorry if you guys. Hopefully you don't mind me putting one of my vices, Red Man Golden Blend, in. It's one of the vices that I have. So I think the thing about when you talk about wing T, here's the thing I'm going to tell you about wing T. Wing T guys are usually sequential play callers, which means they're going to have the plays in that are the core of their offense, and they're going to call the plays based on who on the defense is making plays. So they're going to call Buck, and somebody's going to tell them, hey, that's the Mike linebacker, and they're going to have an answer off the Mike linebacker to the Buck. They're going to call belly or down, and they're going to say, hey, that's the 7 technique or that's something else. And they're going to have an answer to the 7 technique making a play on belly or down. So they become, in true Tubby Raymond, Delaware wing T, they become sequential play callers that call plays based on the results that they're getting and what the defense is doing. And all offensive guys, I think, are going to have a core. What I will tell you about this is figure out how many times you throw the ball a game and base your core passes off of that. So what I mean is, and I've done several videos on this before, if you aren't going to drop back and throw the ball 35 times a game, don't have 15 concepts in the passing game. So if you are only going to throw the ball 20 times a game, and of those 20, only 10 of them are going to be drop back, and the other 10 are going to be quick screens and boots or waggles, or you don't need an abundance of drop back concepts. If you're going to throw the ball 40 to 45 times a game, like an air raid team, you either need more concepts or you need more adjustments to your concepts, or you need more route adjustments or slight adjustments or wrinkles to your core plays. Coach Cole, that's a very good point. Because you're only running those core plays and you're running them a lot. But to me, offensively, the bigger key is what is your run to pass percentage? Who do you want to be as an offense? And let that determine how much you have in. If you want to run the ball 70% of the time, then I think you need more wrinkles in the run game. If you want to throw the ball 70% of the time, I think you need more wrinkles in the passing game. So if that makes sense to you, that is a little bit more important in my opinion. So I wouldn't worry so much about systems or core, because I think every offense has core runs. If you're asking me personally, I only carry 4 runs, and off of those 4 runs, I have my wrinkles, I have my read game, I have my zone read stuff, and then I have my split zone stuff, and then I have my zone insert, and then I have my RPOs off of that. Last year we had buck sweep, we had dart, tackle wrap stuff, so, and then we had power. So I only carry 4 run schemes, and then I try and carry my wrinkles off of that. And I only probably had 3 or 4 drop back concepts in because we don't throw the ball. We don't drop back and throw the ball enough to have more concepts in that. So we're a 3-man scat team. We're a 4 vertical team. We're a flood team. And we're a curl spot, slide, curl spot, curl flat team. So that's what we do because of the run pass percentage that I want to carry and because how I want to play football. So I would think figure out who you are as an offensive guy, figure out what you want to do, figure out your percentages and your tendencies, and then build your play calls in off of that. So hopefully that helps you, Tony. I don't know if it does or it doesn't, but that's just the way I think of it. Any other scheme questions? Any other technique questions? Practice plan questions? Weight room questions? Strength training questions? Anything else you guys got? It's 9:15 on a Friday night, and I'm not going anywhere. So you're welcome, Tony. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Anything else you guys got? I'll stay for a little bit longer, see if we have anything else, any other questions out there. Anybody have any big Super Bowl plans? Super Bowl parties? Do you take Monday off of work? Spencer Rattler is a better fit than Jalen Hurts, and I can't wait to see how much. Oh, you're breaking my heart, Boomer. I am an Alabama fan through and through, so I'm a Jalen Hurts fan through and through. Um, so, but I have all the respect in the world for Oklahoma and what they are in football. So, um, yeah, if Spencer Rattler is a better air raid fit for Lincoln Riley, then I think you guys will be pretty good. You're going to be on offense no matter what you do. You're always going to get great offensive recruits. Lincoln Riley, in my opinion, is um, as good as anybody in the country on offense. So, but I could see, as an Alabama fan, I understood the limitations of Jalen, and I understood how much different our offense was with Tua in and Jalen, and what our coordinator. I say our shit. I'm an Alabama fan. I don't mean our. But as a football guy, especially when they had Brian Daboll, who came from the Patriots as coordinator, how much and the receivers that Alabama had when Tua got in, to see what they were able to do in the passing game compared to what they were able to do with Jalen was definitely different. So obviously, if Spencer Rattler is a better fit for Lincoln Riley, then you guys, if it's crazy enough to say you could be better on offense than you are, I don't understand how Oklahoma can't be better on defense. Thanks, Coach Cole. Whiteboard Q&A. I don't have a whiteboard at my house, so when I live stream from my house, I don't have a whiteboard, so it's very hard for me to do that. But here's the deal. My YouTube is only as good as you guys are, and my live streams are only as good as you are. So if you tell me that you want to live stream Q&A whiteboard, then I will do it from school or from my office or somewhere where I have a whiteboard and I have internet access, and I will Q&A on a whiteboard all day. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't have one at my house. And I kind of talked about this last time. I kind of have the ability to see things in my head and talk through them in my head. So I really don't. I know you visually or whatever, however you learn, you're probably, if you're a visual learner, you need to see things drawn up, and I totally understand that. And if that's what you want, I can set something like that up and do it. I don't have a problem doing it. I don't need that personally myself. Um, Interesting story, Boomer Sooner, based on DeMarco Murray. A couple years ago, I decided to implement a lot of push motion running back stuff in the passing game, and put the running back out there in fast push motion and not use them in protection, because the Sooners at the time were doing a lot of that stuff, and DeMarco Murray was great in space, and they were building that into their passing game because of what DeMarco Murray could do in space. But the other thing that it had to do with was the fact that if he stayed in protection, he was better as a receiver than he might have been as a protector. So if you kept him in protection to pick up a blitzing linebacker, it didn't suit his skill set. So after watching DeMarco Murray push motion with what the Sooners were doing on offense, I started using a lot of push motion, fast motion stuff off of what DeMarco Murray was doing. So I'm a big DeMarco Murray fan. And Alex Grinch is doing great things. I agree with you 110%. My only problem is, as good as they are on offense, being a blue blood and being a top 15, 20, 10, 5 recruiting school every year, I think you can be better on defense. And now, your style of play on offense affects your defense, and the Big 12 style of play affects your defense. I totally get it. But not to be disparaging to you, Boomer, at all, or disparaging to Oklahoma. But unfortunately, when you're getting into playoffs, you are having terrible results. And I know that they are addressing it, and I know that Lincoln Riley is a very bright individual. But at some point, you have to figure out that you're good enough to get out of the Big 12 and you're good enough to get to the dance. And when you get to the dance, uh, the date that you are bringing to the dance is not good enough. So I think whether it be recruiting or what Alex Grinch is doing, I think they need to get better on that side of the ball if they're ever going to push it a step further. Let me ask you this, Boomer, if I can now ask questions to you. Do you think their D line has gone downhill and a problem used to be against? Yeah, they used to have really good D line. Do you think, as a Sooner fan, do you think their lack of success in the playoffs is going to affect the future voting of committee members putting them in the playoffs? And that's the great thing about YouTube Live is I can turn around and ask you a question. It doesn't always have to be you asking me questions. So I'm a little bit concerned that their results in the playoffs are going to affect future voting because I think and I could be biased because I'm an Alabama fan, but I want to say this with the least amount of bias possible. When you have a subjective voting on the best 4 teams in the country, I think people are starting to realize that regardless of conference results and championships, the best 4 teams are not always getting into playoffs, and I think that's becoming a little bit of an issue. But I don't know a different or better way to address that because I don't know what other subjective info we have. Sorry, guys. One of my cats came in, had to close the door. That'd be interesting while we have a few people left here on YouTube Live. If you are football fans, what can we do different in the playoff system? What else can we do? I know people are going to say expand to 8 teams and all the Power 5 conferences champions get in, and then you have some at-large bids. But I kind of think about it this way. LSU is playing Oklahoma in the 1-4 game, and Oklahoma's a 15-point underdog. If those are the best 4 teams in college we can find, and there's a 15-point spread, even though I know you don't play the game because of spreads, and I know that underdogs win. I got into a Twitter argument with somebody about that, and they took my comments totally the wrong way. What I'm saying is if the best 4 teams in the country are who we're selecting, and the point spread is 15 points between the number 1 seed and the 4 seed, what good would expanding to 8 teams do if the 4 team is based on odds in Vegas? The 4 team is not on paper within 15 points of the 1 seed. Why in the hell should we go to 8? But that's just my opinion. Oklahoma getting knocked out as quickly as they do is definitely a reason for them not being picked in the playoffs. Local sports analysts believe what you stated. Yeah, I think everybody does. But based on the current criteria we have to choose teams in the playoffs, I just don't see how that's going to change anytime soon because if they keep going 11-1 or 12-0 and winning the Big 12 and somebody in the SEC or the ACC has 2 losses, I just don't see how that's going to change. Until everybody starts to understand that picking the best 4 teams in the nation is based on the eye test and the human element to say that, all right, these teams are winning championships in their conference, but they're nowhere near as good as some of the other teams in other conferences, and we're going to take multiple teams from the same conference, and I get it why you don't want to do that because the other conferences then feel like, why do we even play if a conference championship doesn't mean anything? But I'm sorry, based on recent results, some of these other conference champs don't belong in those games. And I'm not an SEC homer. I don't sit there and say that the SEC is what it. I just base it on results, and just seems to be that some of the teams in the SEC are better suited to be in the playoffs and be in the finals than some of the other teams around the country are. So until we get down to just using an eye test and saying, look, I don't care how many losses you have or what your championships are. This two-loss team is better than that undefeated or one-loss team. I don't know how we're going to get in a better situation, but at the same time, then I understand how it becomes a problem for the UCFs and some of the other teams to say that how are we ever going to get in? And do you need to be in a world where they need to get in? I don't see why winning your own conference championship and going to a really good bowl game is not good enough for some people. Um, in the high school world that I live in, every year that we line up, there's going to be several teams that have no shot at the state championship. So why should we worry about college teams having to have a shot at the national championship? There's haves and have-nots. There's blue bloods and there's others, and college is always going to be set that way. And it's nice to give some of these other teams a shot, but Oklahoma, unfortunately, has been one of the teams that we've given a shot, and they can't, get off of there. Unfortunately, they can't back up. They can't back up what they've been doing. So, scheduling, losing early in the season, and winning out pushes them into the playoffs, while the top SEC teams knock each other off. Yo. Sorry, I'll finish that thought. Sorry, buddy. Well, Tubby's and joke with workers in Michigan about it. Yeah. People in Michigan have their own issues. Michigan isn't what people want them to be, and Jim Harbaugh isn't what people want him to be. So people in Michigan have their own battles that they have to fight. But I just hate the SEC argument. I hate the pounding of the chest that the SEC is the best conference in football, but results state that those teams are better equipped to play with everybody in the country and in those settings. So, I live 45 minutes from Gainesville, and there's people that would argue that Florida gave LSU a way better game than Oklahoma, and Florida should have been in the game. And people in Alabama are going to argue that Alabama or Auburn should have been in the game. So, I like the idea of an 18 playoff, but 4 is probably the right way to go. I don't have a problem with an 18 playoff, Brad. That's not what I'm saying. What I have a problem with is if we're subjectively picking the best 4 teams and we're getting some of these games that are blowouts when the 1 seed plays the 4 seed. I really don't know what 8 teams would do, but the system is so screwed up because every other conference in college and every other division, I'm sorry, not conference, but Division 1 AA, Division 2, and Division 3 all settle their champions with a playoff system. And I know we're going to argue about how many games these kids play and player safety and missing school and missing classes. I know that's going to be a big argument, but I just wonder why can all these other divisions settle it with a playoff, but Division 1 can't? So, an 8-team deal with a little round robin playoff, and I think would be great. I think it would be interesting. I think you don't want to lose the luster from some of these playoff games that have now, because in the national championship, some of these playoff games have kind of lost their luster a little bit. The bowl games have lost their luster because of the playoffs, but it's a money deal. It's a money grab. It's always going to be a money grab. So if 8 teams is more conducive to making money for ESPN and everybody else, then 8 teams is going to be the deal. I just don't know if that's the way to go right now because I can't honestly say that the winner of the Pac-12 deserves to be in a championship, or the winner of, hell, even the ACC has been so down with Clemson. The other side of the ACC has been so down that even the ACC isn't very good. So I don't know. Good question. Subjective voting can have brutal results. My league has gone back to a mysterious PowerPoint system and doesn't classify division by enrollment. High school football is so screwed up. Enrollment, doing things by enrollment. There are schools with 500 kids that are going to whip schools with 2,000 kids. High school football. I would like to see high school football work on some type of relegation system like soccer, where you take these top teams in every classification that make the playoffs every year and put them all in one or two deals and put the other teams in another deal and go from there. Because obviously, if the same teams are going to the playoffs and winning all the time, regardless of classification, it doesn't really matter how many students I have. What it matters is the 30 football players that actually suit up and play. So I'd like to see high school football go to a type deal where, every 2 years after the playoff results or state championship results, you start with enrollment, but then maybe teams get relegated down and teams get relegated up. So a 4A team goes up to 6A and a 6A team goes down to 4A based on the results. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if that's crazy on my part, but I think enrollment is a common denominator for how you split high schools up across the country. But I can tell you in Florida, enrollment doesn't always mean all that much because there's 4A teams and 3A teams. There's 2 and 3A private schools that would beat the heck out of 8A public schools. So I don't think enrollment really makes a difference. ESPN always pushes OU past history. Seems like favoritism at times. Boomer. I don't know if I agree with ESPN. Yes, I agree with the ESPN pushing them. But the thing I will say is I think they push them because Oklahoma is good for money. Oklahoma is good for tickets. Oklahoma has a huge tradition and a huge following with fans. So I think ESPN pushes them because it's better for the ticket sales in these playoff games. And I think ticket sales are a big deal. So I think that's why you see that. So I don't want I'm not disagreeing with you, Boomer, at all, but I think I'm disagreeing on maybe why ESPN pushes Oklahoma. They push Oklahoma because they're going to sell tickets and they're a blue blood and they have great fans like yourself all over the country. And I think that's why they get pushed. Will Ohio State reload or take a step back? Will it be Buckeyes and Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship again? Can Minnesota sustain? I don't know if Minnesota can sustain what they're doing. I don't know if that's going to level off or if it's going to go to an even better place. Ohio State is going to reload. They're always going to reload. They're always going to be in the picture no matter what. Wisconsin's always going to be in the argument in the Big Ten until other people step up to the plate. I'd like to see more. I'd love to see Minnesota improve upon what they've already done. I'd love to see Penn State improve upon what they've already done. I'd love to see Michigan State get back to the forefront, and I'd love to see Michigan get to a point where they can beat Ohio State and some other programs to make the Big Ten a little bit more viable in the overall picture. But to answer your question, Ohio State will reload. Ohio State will be in the picture. I have the 49ers in the Super Bowl, Brett. Yes, Ohio State's going to be in the picture. Yes, Wisconsin's going to be in the picture to be determined if Minnesota can keep it up. I think now that Minnesota is where they are and they're now on the radar, I think more teams will prepare for what Minnesota does and how they do things since they're on the radar. So I think it's going to get tougher for them to stay at that level. And then can they recruit at a higher level? Because let's face it, guys, even with all the YouTube stuff that I do and all the schemes and all the X's and O's stuff that I do, let's face it, at the end of the day, players win games. I've made this comment before. If you watch horse racing and you watch Kentucky Derby, I've never one time seen the jockey carry the horse across the finish line. And what I mean by that is coaches are great, staffs are great, schemes are great, players are going to win games. And the schools that are knocking on the door every year to be in the playoffs or win the national championship have the best players. There is no doubt about it in my mind. So Minnesota would have to recruit better. Mike Stauffer, Nebraska, 2 years away. I'm going to argue with that. I don't think they're 2 years away. I think Scott Frost is the right guy. I think what Scott Frost does is the right fit. I don't think they're 2 years away, in my opinion. I think they're further than that away. And I think Nebraska needs to get to a point where Scott Frost does more wins and losses than he is just a hot name or a hot ticket. And then when they get back to the point that they are in the Big Ten championship and they're winning 10, 11 games a year, then you're going to get back to the point where you get some of the best players in the country. When you get some of the best players in the country, like you used to back in the Tom Osborne days, then you are going to compete again at the national level. Scott Frost is the right guy. I will say that 100% in my opinion. I am going to disagree with you that they are 2 years away. But I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong for your sake. If you're a Nebraska guy, I have no dog in that fight. I have no ill will towards Nebraska. I have no reason for Nebraska to not be, and I like Scott Frost. Urban Meyer's coming back to football at some point or another. It's all he knows. It's what he does. I don't think he can live without it. I don't think, egotistically, I don't think being an analyst and being a panel member is good enough for his ego. I think he will come back to football at some point. And I don't have to deal with this at my level, but I wish these guys at some point when they get out would say, "Hey, I'm getting out for now. I'm not retiring. Please don't say I'm retiring." It's kind of like wrestling in a way. I wish some of these wrestlers, not the guys that are hurt and have to retire, like Edge is a different story because he retired because medically he couldn't get cleared. But some of these guys that get older and walk away from wrestling and say they're retiring and then they come back for a big payday. It's the same thing with head coaches. Don't tell me you're retiring. Just tell me you're stepping away right now. And I have no idea what the future holds and I might get back in. In the right setting, in the right scenario. Boomer Sooner. How can, as a Sooner fan and an option guy, how can you critique Scott Frost as a player? He was a great option quarterback and tough as nails and a son of Nebraska football. But funny that you say that, and I appreciate the comment. But Urban Meyer's going to get back in. Urban Meyer will be in eventually. Yes, I like mesh. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's difficult at a high school level to get the quarterback to read it out the way maybe you need to read it out. I think at the high school level it has to be taught more simplistic in nature to get the quarterback to read what he needs to read. But the mesh play is a tremendous football play. Getting those rubs on the inside with receivers and then building in either an over-the-top shot or a over-the-middle check down like the big spot Chip Kelly theory, or a 10-yard speed out or a corner out like the Mike Leach or air raid theories. I think mesh is a tremendous football play, and it hasn't been very good to us simply because I probably don't teach it well enough, and I don't think I do a good enough job teaching it. Bo Pelini on LSU. I think Bo Pelini is a good football coach. I think he's a really good defensive football coach. I think some guys were not made to be head football coaches, especially not in a rampant environment like Nebraska. So I think Bo Pelini will do good things at LSU. Coach Trimble was probably never going to quit coaching until health became an issue. Everything that I know about the man, I don't know him personally. Everything I know about him and everything I know about what he did, he was going to coach until he couldn't no more. And if health wasn't an issue, I don't think you would have saw Coach Trimble retire from football. Personally, that's just my opinion. And he had Jenks to a point where it was kind of running itself. So I don't think Coach Trimble would have got out at any time soon. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everything you do for the channel. I appreciate everything you do for me. And like I said, I love the live setting, and I'm kind of enamored and fascinated with the live setting, and I will be going on live more. And I will be looking into interviewing people in the live setting and doing more things than just me in the live setting. But tonight was great. We've been on for an hour and 34 minutes. It's amazing that you can stay on that long. And I appreciate you guys. Appreciate all you do. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Stay safe wherever you're going. And Remember, you won't play well until you play fast. I'm going to end the live stream, guys, and thanks for the questions and responses. And I will catch you next time. Mike, before I leave, I don't think it was a mistake they went to the Big Ten. I think they can play Big Ten football with Nebraska players. And I think they'll fit in the Big Ten. So just caught that late, Mike. But thanks to all you guys. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Brad. Eric Crouch won a Heisman, and Scott Frost missed out on his chance. We got to play safety in the pros. I love Scott Frost. I think he was a great player. But see you guys next time. Thanks for everything you've done. You won't play well until you play fast. Check you out next time, guys.